Hello friends, and last time we have learned about the chemical coordination, that is endocrine system, endocrine glands, and now we are going to talk today about the nervous coordination. You can say nervous system. Nervous systems, yeah, it is being called as a neural system nowadays. That doesn't matter. You may call it as nervous system or you may call it as a neural system, nervous coordination. And I think you're all aware that right from beginning we always have a lot of curiosity about the way the brain works. I think that we have curiosity about our heart also, but probably about the heart we are a little better aware than the brain. Yeah, it's a fact that many of the things about the heart are actually known, but most of the things about the brain are still not known. Brain, spinal cord, the neurons still remain. Most of the information remains hidden, and scientists are trying their level best to come up with new discoveries, but there are limitations because we may need to know. Regular working is probably understood through the school books, but then there are complex issues like memory and thinking, judgment, imagination, and how does the brain gets involved in memory, judgment, imagination, and thinking. Very little thing is known. Anyway, we went through your school books and we found that there is some good information. Different boards have information in different forms, and it may be in 8th, 9th or 10th. I think we'll begin with the general understanding of the nervous tissue, nervous system, and for which I think I will present to you a few slides in the beginning as an introduction. Yes, as per our practice, we will try to have look into the nervous organization, neural organization in humans and frogs and earthworm and cockroach. Okay, but ultimately we want to go into some details of the human brain and the spinal cord and so on. So let's begin. So here down I will say something about the human brain. That's how what we start with. This is fantastic. Just about 1.5 kg organ, and makes all of us be as humans, be as a teacher from my side, and be as students on your side, and all this process of teaching, learning going on thanks to this organ, because without the brain nothing will be possible. So it is located in the skull, and here the main parts are known to you. This is cerebrum. You remember this word? Yeah, there are two parts, right side part and left side part. So cerebral hemispheres. I think these things are supposed to be known to you. The whole organ is called, the whole part is called as cerebrum, and cerebrum has two right and left half portions, cerebral hemispheres. This is a major part. A major brain is all here. Mostly 85% of the brain is cerebrum. And this is cerebellum. Cerebellum. Cerebrum, cerebellum. And this is comparatively smaller and to the inferior side. This is superior side, upper, and this is lower. And there are certain things like medulla oblongata and pons here. Some details we are going to go into facts a little later on. So this is medulla and pons. I think major is cerebrum. This is cerebellum, pons, medulla, and all. You are all aware this brain is having neurons. I think this is one word that you know. Nerve cells, neurons. And how many neurons? Billions of neurons. The human brain itself will have 100 billion neurons. 100 billion, it's a huge number. We are going to consider the details of the neuron, and I think in your school days you have learned what is a neuron. Neuron is a long cell, and we are going to talk about it. So this is the basic idea. Now with this details of the human brain we are going to consider later on. But then I would like to present before you the brain of amphibian, the frog. And why? Clearly because every time we are trying to say that all the vertebrates, their structures are homologous. I'll remind you one fact. Hearts of all vertebrates are homologous. Eyes of all vertebrates are homologous. Brains are also homologous. What do you mean by homology? Basic similarity, structural similarity, and that is a product of evolution. So, this is the brain of the frog, and once again you have cerebrum, and there is a cerebellum, cerebrum, cerebellum. You would say, oh my God, this is so different. It may look different, but basically it is same. Of course, frogs are not involved, not expected to be involved in the process of online learning. Naturally, because their cerebrum is not so well developed, and their cerebellum is also not so well developed as in our case. They have big optic lobes. These two are called as optic lobes. We also have optic lobes, but our optic lobes have become smaller. I mean, there are lots of issues, and we may or may not be able to remember all those things. But I just want to present before you that yes, basically cerebrum, cerebellum, okay, optic lobes, and then there is medulla oblongata here. So I think if you see the serial arrangement of the parts of the brain, they are very much similar in both cases. And this is a view from top, that's called as a dorsal view, and this is a view from lower side, it's being called as a ventral view. This is the pituitary gland, and in our case also the pituitary gland is there exactly at the same location on the lower side. You are aware that there will be area here inside which will be called as hypothalamus. Yes, even in the frog brain there is hypothalamus, and attached to the hypothalamus there is pituitary gland. Brain is all hollow. You can see this structure. These are all cavities in the brain. Even in the human brain there are cavities. I just want to use this opportunity to impress your minds that brains of all vertebrates are having some basic similar pattern of organization. The brains may look different from human brain, fine, but basic details don't differ. I'll repeat: cerebrum, cerebellum, medulla, big optic lobes. This is the dorsal view, this is a ventral view. On ventral side, there is pituitary gland here, which is exactly the same location in our own case. And I think the skull and the sella turcica, it was shown to you last time, and there we have shown where the pituitary gland is lodged. All that can be repeated today. So in the frog's brain also there is pituitary gland. They don't have sella turcica, and it's a slightly different arrangement, but the pituitary gland is there, and the pituitary gland of the frog also will produce most of the hormones which human pituitary produces. And the brains of all vertebrates are hollow. This black thing is all cavities. Brain is hollow, and these cavities are full of some liquid known as a cerebrospinal fluid. From the brain, lots of nerves begin. These are called as cranial nerves, and I think you are all aware of them. You are also aware that the nervous nervous system, that is neural system, is divisible into central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, autonomic nervous system. Central, CNS, peripheral, PNS, autonomic, ANS. These three divisions of the nervous system are there in all vertebrates. In humans, in birds, in reptiles, in frogs like the amphibians, fishes, everywhere it is the same thing. So basic homology exists. To carry this point further, I would like to show you now this particular diagram that will probably be more convincing. Looking at this, you will find this is the fish brain, this is the frog brain, this is the reptile brain. A lot of similarity, very clear. And yes, during evolution, fishes gave rise to amphibia, amphibia gave rise to reptilia, this much you know. And look at the brain of the bird. We are going to learn later on that fishes gave rise to amphibia, amphibia gave rise to reptilia, and reptile gave rise to birds and mammals. From reptilia, two groups arose, birds and mammals. So same, in all these 5 cases you will find that there is, let us see the cerebrum here everywhere. You can see the cerebrum. This is all cerebrum. This is all cerebrum. This is human brain. Mammal, human, cat, tiger, elephant, human. This is mammalian brain. Of course, cerebrum is better developed here. Compare the cerebrum here and the cerebrum of the amphibia frog. So cerebrum. And then cerebellum. See the cerebellum here. See the cerebellum here. Cerebellum is better developed in birds and mammals. I mean to say basic design does not change. Even the internal structures are also the same. Functioning may be, of course, more and more complicated. As compared to the functioning of the brain of the fish and the frog or the reptile, I think functioning is more complicated in birds and mammals. But this is a picture to allow you to imagine that yes, basically, just like hearts of the different vertebrates have homology. What is the meaning of the word homology? Basic similarity. There is a homology in the vertebrate brains also. I think as compared to this, the situation in the invertebrates is different. I will now just present before you this picture of the nervous system of the earthworm. Oh my God! Earthworm nervous system? Earthworm has very well developed nervous system. Do you remember when we considered circulatory system, there was a picture shown to you, and I think the PDF form picture has also been sent to you, that there is a very complicated circulatory system in the earthworm. Earthworm, when you look at earthworm crawling here and there, you never want to imagine that it is such a complicated thing. It has nephridia, complicated inside, it has got circulatory system, complicated, and it has got nervous system, but it is a sort of a ring. This we call this is a nerve cord, nerve ring and nerve cord, and it's long, it's very long. These are segment numbers. So yeah, this is the nervous system. Nervous system in the non-chordates is many times like this. I'll show you the nervous system of the cockroach. Yes, see the nervous system of the cockroach. Here is the nervous system of the cockroach. Once again, it is in the form of a ring. This is the nervous system of the cockroach, which is in the form of a ring, and this is the nerve cord. I think it's rather similar. So if you want to compare the nervous system of the earthworm and the cockroach, you will find that there is some basic similarity. And what is that basic similarity? It is in the form of the ring-like nature. So this is a ring, this is also a ring. Actually, through this ring, digestive system passes. You can see the digestive system here. Same thing, similar part of the digestive system will be passing here. It is removed here, it is not removed. Anyway, so this is the ring-like thing. This is also the ring-like thing. And this is a nerve cord. So nerve ring and nerve cord. Basic similarity is there. Annelids and arthropods. Annelids give rise to arthropoda, and so system will be similar. When you go to much lower animals like the hydra, the Cnidaria group, the Coelenterata group, you might have probably heard of what is called as nerve nets. Can you imagine? Most of you know hydra, and hydra has a cylindrical body with tentacles. All these structures which are shown here, they are the neurons, nerve cells you can say, and they are making a kind of a network. Hydra, although a kind of a lower group of animals, it's very active. It's able to manage its work very beautifully, and it has got the nerve net. So this is how even in the lowest group like the Cnidaria, the coelentrates, they have some nervous system. It doesn't have brain, it doesn't have spinal cord, it doesn't have nerve cord. It has got a nerve net. Nerve net is in the form of the different cells. Neurons, of course, are not the exact design that we have. The neurons typically in the vertebrates are having the cell body and then the axon. That is different. But here neurons are better called as nerve cells, are slightly different in nature, and they get connected to each other. So this is the simple form, the lowest possible form of the neural system in some of the animals. I think these are the things that we have seen. We'll have a small pause. So this is what we have considered already. Just now we have looked at the neural organization of the hydra. It's a nerve net, that is Cnidaria group. We have already seen the picture of the nerve rings of the Arthrometer cockroach, Annelida and Arthropoda group. But these are all primitive things. These are all invertebrates, non-chordates. So we are not expecting their neural organization to be similar to ours. When it comes to frog, humans, why only frog and humans? Fish, reptiles, say the brain of a snake, brain of a lizard, and then birds, and all mammals, humans. When you think of vertebrates, their brains are rather similar. Which are the main parts? Cerebrum, cerebellum. There is one more part, diencephalon. I am avoiding all those words just now, but we will come to them little later on. And then there is what is called as medulla oblongata. So all those things are present in all the vertebrates. So vertebrate groups, they have well developed brain. Compared to these, they have well developed brain. You know, brain, it seems, has mattered a lot during evolution. Why vertebrates are so different from others? Non-chordates are, that is vertebrates are also quite active animals, but then vertebrates have a special place in the animals. When I say vertebrates, what do you mean? Fishes, amphibia, reptilia, birds and mammals. And one of the major features why vertebrates are so different is that they have a far better developed neural system, and so they have well developed brain, because brain seems to be the main part of the neural system. And there is a homology. I have used this word many times, so I will not talk about it now. What is the basic function of the neural system? Whether it is in hydra, earthworm, cockroach, frog, humans, what is the basic need? Coordination and integration. These words are used in books also. And sometimes we think about it, and most of the time we try to forget them. What do you mean by coordination? I repeat, what do you mean by coordination? See what things have happened when I have taken this action. There has been a coordination between the muscles of my face and muscles of my tongue and the muscles of my hand and fingers. So when I am trying to put these things together, see, individually the muscles of my fingers are being controlled because I want to say coordination. So muscles of my fingers are being controlled. Muscles of my jaws and tongue are being controlled. At the same time, my muscles of my eyes are being controlled because I am also making some movements of my eyes. Individual parts are being controlled. And all these parts together are being coordinated. So what is the relationship? Single controls and many controls. Many controls together is coordination. Because if I want to show a particular action in a particular way, there will be so many parts that must at a time work. And when you are expecting many things to work at a time, that needs coordination. So, basic function of the nervous system is coordination. And here the coordination means at a time regulate so many functions of the body. And along with coordination there is integration. This word is also used lightly, and many of us don't bother to understand what is integration, because these things are there in your 8, 9, 10 books. At least in some of the books it is there. Integration. You know what happens is, this information which is available to the brain, with the help of that information, coordination is taking place, but it has to be meaningful. A coordination which becomes meaningful to produce the effect that is useful. A meaningful coordination, I'm talking seriously, a meaningful coordination to produce useful effect, useful action is what is called as integration. I think this is something which is a little fishy, and we'll understand it after some time. I'll come to that a little later on. The question mark here is just for that. Why? Because you must keep thinking on these things. Keep thinking, brain, integrate. So integration, it is the integration that makes possible thinking. Along with receptor organs, now I am coming to that point again. Along with the receptor organs, sense organs. The receptors are sense organs, Along with the receptor organs, the neural system makes the animal respond to changes in external and internal environment. This statement appears heavy? No, it's not heavy. Oh, sorry. Oh, there was a mosquito. And the mosquito bites me. And I want to continue with the lecture. So I want to just remove it. External environment, it matters. At the same time, there is an internal environment. There's lots of things going on in my body. And they are also being controlled and coordinated by the brain. So it is the external changes and internal changes which are all at a time perceived by the nervous tissue, the nervous system, the neural system, and then we are able to adjust accordingly. It would have been impossible. It would have been impossible for any animal to continue its life without this kind of an ability. But one thing, this is possible only with the help of sense organs. There has to be sensory inputs. Okay, to make this more clear, I'll make this clear, this statement I'll make clear, the point of coordination and integration also I'll make clear when I will come to this particular chart. Here is a very, very simple chart and I'm sure you are going to understand it more easily. Let's go for that. There was a statement made there that along with sense organs, the neural system makes possible the animal to respond to external and internal environment. Look carefully. Without input and output devices, the neural system is helpless. Imagine, just now, suppose you don't have ear, or your ear are not working, your eyes are not working. If your ear and eyes are not working, how are you going to learn just now this particular movement? It is the eyes and the ear which are mainly involved in this movement, and you are looking to the board and looking at me, so that is through eyes, and the dialogue that I am trying to develop with you, you are listening through your ears. And all this information, the information going through the eyes and the information going through the ears is reaching your brain. But if suppose your eyes and ears are not working, then no information will be going to the brain, and then no learning will be possible. I mean to say, it is the receptors, the sense organs, which are called as input devices. Let us talk about input devices. Input devices goes to the central processing unit in terms of the computer language, and then there will be output devices. This is also well known to you these days, that you have input to, a keyboard, for example, is an input device for a computer, and there is a CPU there. They used to use CPUs in the past. Now there are very small CPUs, well developed. So there, all that information goes there, and whatever system you are loaded, as per that the CPU will work, and then there will be output device. Suppose you are typing something and you want to see something on the screen. So what you see on the screen is the output. So please understand, your keyboard of a computer is input. The screen of the computer is an output. And when you put in the message, you pass an order through the keyboard to the CPU will integrate it, CPU will understand it, CPU will have specific arrangements, electronic arrangement, digital type to convert your input into proper message, and it will also send it to the proper section and will be output, so that you can start looking at those things on the screen. So there is an input device, there is an output device, and there is a central processing unit. Exactly this way we have the arrangements in the body. Look at this. You have the receptors, eye, skin, symbolically represented skin, ear, eyes, skin, ear, tongue, and nose. I have not shown them here, but you understand it. These are the 5 major external devices, input devices, external receptors. We are going to learn something about receptors. Most of the receptors that we are generally aware are external receptors. But to be very frank, there are internal receptors also. What do you mean by internal receptors? Internal receptors are some of the cells and tissues in the stomach, in the blood vessels, almost everywhere, and in the muscles there are receptors. Interoceptors they are called as. These are all exteroceptors. What are the exteroceptors? Those receptors which are able to collect information from the outside world. They are called as exteroceptors, which are better known to us: ear, skin, eye, tongue, and the nasal capsule. They are all exteroceptors. We get information about the outside world from these receptors. That information is passed to brain, and our brain will have a very important process of integration going on. You can think of integration this way. Okay, what I do is, can you just open your earlier chapter PDF? Please go through that. Oh, when I said something, this was my input. I was trying to say that you refer to the earlier chapter, endocrine chapter, the PDF. You thought your brain processed this information. This was my input. You heard it, and you looked at me, and you had some doubts what I was talking about. Then your brain started thinking. Your brain started integrating those things. Then some of you started going back into your mobile to find out the PDF, and some of you just kept waiting, and some of you did not bother. So different brains work in different ways. This is integration. Some of you said, okay, I'll see later on. Some of you said, oh, this person is saying to open the PDF, I must do it. And some of you may be saying, oh my God, this is something which I am not understanding. So different things happen in different brains. This is what is called as integration. So even you have inputs, when you have a lot of information coming in, the brain will integrate. And integration may be different in different people. So what is integration? Once again I'll say you. Whatever information is coming to the brain will try to convert that information into a useful form so that suitable action can be taken. Suitable action. For action you have muscles and glands. Input devices are receptors and output devices are muscles and glands. When I say, suppose some of you are writing the notebook. I say you open the last page of your notebook. What will you do? If I say, just now you are listening to me, and if you are sitting with the notebook, I will say open the last page of your notebook. Naturally you will have to use your fingers, and then you will have to turn the pages, and then you will reach to the last page. So when I say open the last page, this is the input device. Open, sound. It will go to the brain. Brain understand what do you mean by last page. Nobody is going to open the first page. People are going to open the last page, because people understand what is last page. And now that last page will be opened, and this is how a meaningful action will be taken. This is how a meaningful action will be taken because the brain will integrate the information. The information is about the last page, and then the meaningful action will be taken with the help of the muscles, fingers. So with the help of the muscles of the finger, useful activity will be done. So what is integration? Integration is converting the incoming information into a useful action, and this is the decision making, so to say. And nobody is going to use the fingers of the legs to turn the last page. People are going to use the fingers of the hand. Integration is very, very beautiful. But one thing here, if these are missing, if receptors are missing, brain is helpless. If you don't have a typewriter, most of the ordinary computers will not work, because I don't think most of the computers can pick up the order that you are giving through your voice. That can happen, no doubt, but in the traditional ways, the computer can work only if you have a typewriter. Some keyboard has to be there. So receptors must be there. Then only the information can reach the nervous tissue, neural organ, brain, and then these must be there. Muscles and glands. Why these two are considered? Because body muscles may be the striated muscles, which are the skeletal muscles attached to our brain, attached to our bones, and the visceral muscles. There are non-striated or smooth muscles, which are the muscles of the intestine and all. Because when the brain is sending orders, is it sending order only to the limbs and the belly and the back and the neck? No, it is also sending orders to intestine, stomach, and so on. It means that muscles are always there, and the brain brings about the particular effect with the help of muscles. Similarly, the glands, any gland, there are lots of glands, exocrine, endocrine, mixed glands, their secretions occur. So, we are better aware of the output of the brain effect on the muscles, but you should know that there are lots of glands inside and lots of muscles also, which are inner side, and they also are under the control of the brain. So we must have input, integration, and output. So this is a very important thing. This happens in all, whether it is hydra or earthworm, whether it is cockroach or frog or fish or bird or human, everywhere the neural system works on this principle. There are input devices, there is central processing and output. Of course, in the case of hydra, you are not expecting a brain, but the input has to be there. The hydra will respond to the environmental change. Environmental change may be touch or temperature or some chemicals in the water, and that is the input. And then the output will be, hydra also has some special cells because of which the hydra can extend its body. So there is an output device. So input and output devices, their nature may differ in animals. In vertebrates, you can say all vertebrates, fish to mammals. Input devices are in the form of most of these sense organs. Output devices are in the form of glands and muscles. And the brain, the cerebrum particularly, and cerebellum also to a great extent, is a part which does a lot of integration. So I hope you have understood, and if you have not understood, it takes time. Science is something which is a continuous story. There are questions and answers may or may not be possible. Yes, I know that we are going to conduct a session on what is science. That time I think you will find, yeah, it is possible. So you should not have the ambition to know everything, mug it up and pour it on the paper, or just select the correct answer of the MCQ. That is not the purpose of science. Science and biology and physics and chemistry are not for NEET. NEET is by chance there. JEE is by chance there. Basic science, basic biology, physics, chemistry, they exist on their own, and that is what we must enjoy. Okay? We have a small pause here. So friends, we have been talking about the great organ, the brain, and of course it has got its secretary known as spinal cord. So if brain is a boss, spinal cord is a secretary, and of course there are more details about the brain and spinal cord that we want to learn. But continuing with the thing that was said a few minutes back, that there is something which is called as integration, and integration requires input to the brain, then brain will work on that information, and then will produce something useful decision that will be implemented by the muscles and the glands. This is the neuron, the basic design, and I think you are all so much aware of the neuron. I always wonder how you must have learned these things in schools. But then your teachers must be credited for that, to put these concepts of neuron and brain into your brains. The neuron is a long cell. It is a very, very special cell. Because whenever we draw cells, we simply draw the cell something like this. Anybody wanting to draw a cell will draw a cell like this. But compare this cell with this cell. This may be a cell of some part of the body. Suppose maybe some of the epithelial tissue cell may look like this. I can draw it like this. Suppose this is an epithelial tissue cell. But then this cell is so different from that. And this is so different from the muscle cell. Very highly specialized cell. So please be sure this is a very highly specialized cell. And it's very long. They say that neurons are some of the longest cells in the body. And some neurons may be 1 meter long. Can you imagine a cell as 1 meter long? Not all neurons are that long. Some neurons are that long. But it's a fine thing, and the purpose is it has to conduct impulses. Again, I would suggest you to relate yourself to the earlier session number 6. It was all about endocrines. There, two issues were raised. One issue was hormonal coordination and another was nervous coordination. The body is being at a time controlled by two. We already considered how the hormonal coordination takes place, and now we are considering here the nervous coordination. The body is controlled by two systems. Hormonal system, there is endocrine system and nervous system. And the nervous coordination is by way of transfer of messages which are in the electrical form. That's very important. I'll use this word. Chemicals are chemicals. They are transported. The hormones are transported by blood. Everybody knows. But when neurons work, neurons have to pass the information coming from the receptors to the brain, in orders from the brain to the effectors. The neurons, who else will do it? Majority of the cells of the nervous tissue, the brain and all are all neurons. Fantastic. There is a cell body and there is an axon. Cell body which is called a cyton and there is a long axon. Actually it has got small branches known as dendrons. I think those details are already known to you. What is interesting is that this long cell has branching at both ends. See, this is branched here and this is branched here. There can be different names to these structures. Kilodendria. Why to bother? Don't worry about those names. What is to be appreciated here? This is a specialized cell, very highly specialized, unlike any other cell, and it has got branching at both ends, and this has a very long process in between. It is this long process that carries the information, and this information will be carried always in a fixed direction. It will always be compulsorily from cell body to the axon and to the branches of the axon. This is a must, and this information will be electrical. So even last time it was given on the board, this kind of a hint was given on the board that information which is passing through the neurons is electrical. And here I think we will talk about this kind of information. Supposing you have information which is starting from input devices. Input devices, do you understand what are input devices? Sense organs. Suppose the information begins, connected to the ear, eye, skin, tongue. Connected to the ear, eye, skin, tongue. There are neurons, and the neurons are in chains. Very important information. One single neuron cannot do the work. Neurons are in a chain. Minimum 2, maximum there can be many. And these chains make possible conduction of the information. Carefully look here from sense organ. Suppose this is a neuron starting from the ear. Suppose this is information. Because I'm talking to you, you are listening. I'm talking to you and you are listening, and the neuron is starting from the ear. And the neuron which is starting from the ear is carrying the message through a chain, and it is ultimately reaching the brain. Of course, this model is not exactly applicable because there may be certain number of neurons, may be little lesser, but just to make you be aware of the fact that neurons are acting as a chain. So from sense organ to the brain, the information passes through a chain. These yellow arrows indicate the direction. It is from the receptors to the brain. Input. And when the brain will receive the information, what the brain will do? Brain will integrate the information. When you are understanding, suppose I am trying to say something, and when you are understanding or not understanding, things are happening in the brain. The understanding or not understanding is something which is happening in the brain. But it can happen only if the information is reaching your brain. This is one-way traffic. So this is one thing. These are the axons. These are the axons. This is not an axon. This is a dendron. Now there are lots of details, but let me tell you. The first neuron in the chain will have a short axon and long dendron. So that's the this is dendron, then this is axon. Then this is axon, this is axon, this is axon. Firstly, neurons always work in a chain. Information is going from sense organ to brain through a chain of neurons. E indicates electrical. Along the axon, message is passing electrically. But one very strange and one very important thing. There are billions of neurons. It was indicated that there are billions of neurons in the brain and spinal cord taken together. There are billions of neurons. However, two neurons are never actually connected. Suppose if this is one neuron and this is the second neuron, there is always a gap between them. The two neurons always have a gap between them. Suppose this is one and this is second neuron and this is the third neuron I want to show. There will be again big gap. So neurons are having gaps. Wonderful. So you can't compare them with wires because our wires, the electrical wires, they don't have any gap, they are continuous. So what a great and very strange type of arrangement nature has generated. Axon acts as a wire, okay, but then that wire is not continuous. One axon ends here and there is a gap here. Second axon and there is a gap. Third axon and there is a gap. These gaps, these are called as synapses. I think in your books you have learned that between two neurons there is a gap and that gap is called as synapse. So, this is the word. The neurons in a chain are not connected to each other. They are not connected to each other. There are gaps between them and each gap is called as a synapse and plural will be synapses. How many neurons I have drawn here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So there are synapses. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the synapse, message is chemical. I think even in the last session, endocrine, it was given a hint that each neuron is able to produce chemicals. Some of you know, some of you have forgotten, so if you are not interested, some of you don't want to learn. All things are good because integration is going on. If you are not interested, that means your brain is saying, oh, this is not for me. Fine, have choice, a lot of choice. But I must say that the gaps have chemicals. And these chemicals are adrenaline, acetylcholine. Maybe if you don't want to remember these words, simply say chemicals. So chemicals are there. It means E stands for electrical, message is passing electrically, then chemically. At the synapse it is chemical. Again electrical, then chemical. Again electrical, then chemical. Again electrical, and then finally chemical. My God, impossible to believe that such a thing is happening. मी एक शब्द बोलतोय, तुम्ही ऐकताय, हे सगळं होतंय बरं का तुमच्या शरीरामध्ये. So message is passing electrically and chemically. Now, this is from body parts to brain. That is from sense organ to brain input, and brain makes some decision. तुम्हाला तुमच्यासारखी काहींना असं वाटलं असेल हे फारच आजचं काहीतरी चालू आहे, हे बंद करून टाकू. आणि तुम्ही आता बंद करण्यासाठी तुमच्या मोबाईलवर काहीतरी ऍक्शन घ्याल, ऑफ कराल. इंटिग्रेशन झालं की हे आपल्यासाठी नाही, आपलं फार होतंय जरा. मग तसं जर झालं असेल तर तुम्हाला ते इंटिग्रेशन झालं आणि तुम्ही काहीतरी ऍक्शन घ्याल. सो फ्रॉम ब्रेन टू ऍक्शन. काय ब्रेन टू ऍक्शन आहे ते बघूयात आपण. फ्रॉम ब्रेन, सी दिस इज हाऊ फ्रॉम सेन्स ऑर्गन टू ब्रेन मेसेज हॅज गॉन, अँड नाउ फ्रॉम ब्रेन टू मसल्स. तुम्हाला असं वाटतं की नाही फार त्रासदायक होत आहे, आपण बंद करून टाकू. सो यू हॅव टू यूज युअर फिंगर्स जस्ट टू स्टॉप युअर instrument, mobile or laptop, काय जे असेल ते. So brain will say, oh no, this I don't want. Integration झालं तुमचं. And now the message will start from brain. Again neurons. One neuron, second, third, fourth. Number of neurons will differ in different cases. आता हा मेसेज तुमच्या ब्रेन पासून फिंगर पर्यंत जाणार आहे. So it will pass through the chain of neurons. Once again, axons are there. These are all axons. Dendrons पण असतात, मी काही ते दाखवलेलं नाहीये. So message will start from the brain, electrical, then chemical, then electrical, then chemical, and so on. Because along the axon it is electrical, at the synapse it is chemical, and it will go to the muscles. Stop. हे फारच आज नाही, आजचं सेशन नाही करायचं. Can work. तुम्ही काही जरी केलं ना तर आम्हाला आज चांगलंच वाटतंय. त्याचा अर्थ ब्रेन काम करतोय. आवडतं, आवडत नाही, हवंय, नकोय, This is integration, and accordingly you are working. And most of you are not, you're still wanting to learn. So most of you have kept your instruments on, and then you can say that one flow is from sense organ to brain, and another flow is from brain to the muscles. काय आपण बघा शिकलो बघा, input devices, then CPU, that is processing unit where the integration occurs, and then output devices, muscles. That is how the neurons are supposed to be working. When you learn a single neuron in the school days, it was good. You know that there is a nucleus and these are missile granules and there are dendrons. हे सगळं ठीक आहे. पण मला हे तुम्हाला सांगायचं की ते न्यूरॉन्स चेन मध्ये काम करतात. हा पॉइंट तुम्हाला कन्वे करणं मला जास्त महत्त्वाचं वाटतं. So neurons, single neurons don't work. The neurons have to be in chain from body parts to brain, and then from brain to body parts. The information flows electrically and chemically, and for that the neurons are always in a chain. There are billions of neurons, but two neurons are never connected because there is always a gap. That's very important. I think we'll have a small pause here and we'll go to the next topic. मला नाही आला, पण मी तुम्हाला काय वाटत असेल याचा अंदाज घेत असतो. जरा जास्त होतंय का, पण असं नाही. यू मस्ट अंडरस्टँड, यू मस्ट हॅव लॉट ऑफ curiosity to understand science, to understand biology. Here is something where I want to show you how the neuron is able to conduct the electrical impulse. Here is a neuron symbolically, and I have not shown the branches here. The dendrons and the axon and some branches you can imagine. Very interesting. What are these plus and minus signs? Well, this axon is a part of the cell, and here is some very important information, and it is one of the very basic biological principles that I am trying to tell to you, that all cells of plants, animals, bacteria, protista, fungi, cell of any kind is always charged from outside, and is positively charged from outside and negatively charged. Even this one, there will be positive charges here. I can show you some positive charges even here. So these are all positively charged from outside, and there will be equivalent negative charges. This is not only for neuron, it is for all cells. Please remember this point. It is one of the most fundamental points about the learning of the biology and cells. All cells are charged. If they are charged, it means potential difference exists. You know physics very well. So very clearly there is a potential difference existing. Wonderful experiments have been done, maybe even 60, 70, 80 years back, and they have been able to record what is the value of that potential difference. What you have to do? You have to use electrodes. Put one electrode outside the cell and put one electrode inside the cell. Put two electrodes and then measure the voltage. Of course, this voltage will be very small quantity wise, so the unit used is millivolts, and this is minus 70 millivolts. When this symbol minus is there, it is with respect to the inside. Usually, conventionally, it is the inner charge which is considered while indicating the voltage. So with respect to inside, the voltage is minus 70 millivolts. This is very important. Please understand. You are learning not only one important principle of biology, but also one important principle underlying the neural communication. I'll remind you, it was said again and again that it is along the neuron that the message is passing electrically. Now here there is no message passing because everything is steady. Outside positive, inside negative. And this is what is called as resting potential. So what is resting potential? Resting potential is a state of the axon or the entire cell, you can say, where all charges outside the axon are positive and all charges inside the membrane, the cell membrane, are negative. And the value is usually minus 70. It's not 100% always minus 70. I will again say any value which is given biologically will have will be an average. It may be minus 50, it may be minus 80, but usually on average minus 70. Now, no impulse is passing, no impulse is traveling. And the impulse will always travel, you know this very well. Impulse will always travel from cell body to axon. But the impulse is not traveling because for impulse to be traveling, it must be generated. You imagine now that the neuron is excited. What do you mean by excitation of the neuron? That it gets a message, and then what will happen? This is a neuron which is silent, no impulse is passing, everything is stable, outside positive, inside negative, and minus 70 millivolts is the resting potential. Now see what happens. This arrow will indicate the change. Here now you will find that some excitement has occurred and the neuron has been excited. Very carefully look into the circle. What has happened? Outside has become negative and inside has become positive. Imagine now, compare this one and this one. Here outside is positive, inside is negative. Here outside is negative, inside is positive. Only this much area. This disturbed area, I can say this is disturbed area, is something which is an impulse. What do you mean by electrical impulse? Impulse means a message. And what is the nature of the message? The nature of the message is reversal of the charges. Oh my God, you never thought of it, right? I am trying to tell you. When along the axon, electrical message passes, what actually happens? The outside becomes negative temporarily and inside becomes positive. You may ask me how this happens. It happens by flow of certain ions, and sodium and potassium are involved. But I don't think we want to go into those details. That kind of a theory, how the potential changes by the sodium and potassium movements, we are going to learn later on. फाउंडेशन कोर्सचा पर्पज काय आहे? थोडीशी माहिती घ्यायची, थोडासा अंदाज घ्यायचा, एवढाच आहे. ओके, सो this is how a disturbed area is there, and if now in this area if I put electrodes, then it becomes positive. Why positive? Because the sign is always with respect to the charges inside. Here there is a positive charge inside, and with respect to inside the charge will be plus 30 millivolts again. It may be plus 30, plus 40, plus 20, it depends, but usually plus 30 millivolts. Oh my God, that means this is a disturbance. From minus 70 it has become plus 30. This is exactly what is called as impulse. This disturbed charge distribution, this disturbed charge distribution is what is called as message. So when I am trying to show here, electrical message is passing, this is exactly. But this is not stopping here. It started somewhere here. Then it is moving here. Then it has moved here. Then it will move here. Then it will move here. It can move. It is electricity, you know, it's electrical current that moves. It's a current. Oh my God. Voltage, current, shocks. तुम्ही असं म्हणू शकता की मग आपल्याला शॉक का लागत नाही? बरोबर. शॉक लागत नाही कारण मिलीवोल्ट्स आहे. क्वचित असे काही उदाहरणं आहेत बघा जगामध्ये, फार रेअर, की त्यांनी कुठे हात लावला की एकदम स्पार्क्स येतात. अशा काही उदाहरणं आहेत. फार क्वचित असे लोक असतात की त्यांचे ती इलेक्ट्रिसिटी कशा आहे, कोणत्या अर्थाने कशी व्यक्त होते. सो दॅट समथिंग दॅट इज स्पार्किंग. गंमत आहे. आपल्यामध्ये नाही होणार, तुमच्यामध्ये नाही होणार. गंमत आहे. सगळं इलेक्ट्रिकल. फक्त this kind of electricity is different from the regular electricity that we are using. You know, so wonderful area of research. Many of you want to make careers in biology. मी तुम्हाला एक करियर सुचवतो. Biophysics. When we talk of current and voltage and charges, then we are in the field of biophysics. Without biophysics, biology is of no use. Without biochemistry, biology of no use. Fantastic. त्याचं एक उदाहरण मी तुम्हाला सांगतो. And for circulatory system we have learned it. Electrodes are placed on the body, and then those electrodes, they give us a electrocardiogram, and that electrocardiogram is the conduction, the electrical activity of the heart is being obtained in the form of electrocardiogram. तेच होतं, ते बायोफिजिक्सच आहे. So please understand, you can make excellent career in biophysics. You know what is biology in the present modern concept? Present biology is all physical and chemical analysis of life. Life is biology, and physical and chemical analysis of life is biology. So you can have great careers made in biophysics and biochemistry. Medical science कोणत्या भरोशावर मेडिकल सायन्स पुढे चाललंय? बायोफिजिक्सच्या, बायोकेमिस्ट्रीच्या इन्स्ट्रुमेंट्स तयार होत आहेत. पॅथॉलॉजी कोणत्या भरोशावर पुढे चाललेलं आहे? केमिस्ट्री. तेव्हा हे सगळं बेसिक आहे. मेडिकललाच गेलं पाहिजे असं नाही, आणि मेडिकलला जाऊन सुद्धा तुम्ही रिसर्चमध्ये जाऊ शकता, आणि मेडिकलला न जाताही भरपूर रिसर्च करता येतो. पुढे मी तुम्हाला सांगितलंय, सांगणार आहे आता, न्यूरोलॉजी सायन्स आहे, न्यूरोबायोलॉजी आहे, न्यूरोसायन्स आहे, त्यातही करिअर होऊ शकतं. आपलेच काही विद्यार्थी आहेत, मला आठवते जागृती पटटकल 2008ची आमची विद्यार्थिनी, तिचं PhD या न्यूरोसायन्समध्ये झालंय. She has worked on how the messages from the eyes they are received on the occipital lobe, the ऐकून on the back side of the brain there is occipital lobe, how the messages reach there and how they are interpreted. She worked in Austin, Texas University, and she is doing her postdoctorate there. हे सगळं तुमच्या मनात आलं तर खूप चांगलं आहे. मेडिकलला जायचं असेल जायचं नसेल तर जाऊ नका, कोणाचे फोर्स खाली येऊ नका. बेसिक सायन्स हे तेवढंच छान आहे. खूप विद्यार्थी आम्हाला असे माहिती आहेत की त्यांना सायन्स आवडतं, बायोलॉजी आवडतं, फिजिक्स आहे त्याच्यावर, केमिस्ट्री आवडत असतं, आणि त्यांना आयसरला जायचं असतं. सगळ्यांच्या मनात आयसर हा शब्द आजकाल असतो. हरकत नाही, करा, पण मग तुम्हाला चांगलं बेसिक सगळं सायन्स आलं पाहिजे. सो दिस इज ऑल अबाउट द बायोफिजिक्स. Biophysics includes so many other things, but I have just taken this opportunity to make you aware of one more great career in science, that is biophysics. So, the electrical current is passing, it will reach here, this will reach here, here, and what will happen when the electrical current has reached the end of the axon, then it will be converted into chemical flow. The end of the axon has the ability to produce chemicals. The electricity will reach here and a chemical will be produced. That chemical will excite the next neuron. Again electrical current will be produced. That end will produce again chemical. तुम्हाला नाही लक्षात घ्यायचं, नाही विश्वास ठेवायचा, नका ठेवू. मी काय करणार? मी काही हे सगळं संशोधन केलं नाही. जे आहे ते सगळीकडे असंच आहे. So fantastic, almost unbelievable. What are the two things I will conclude to say? That there are billions of neurons. It is the billions of neurons which work together to make the functioning of the brain and spinal cord. It is this chain of neurons which have electrical conduction along the neurons, and at the gaps there is chemical conduction. And एवढं सगळं करून हे फास्ट असतं. What is the rate at which the current will travels? This is the impulse traveling. What is the current at which it will travel? What is the rate at which it will travel? That can differ, but it can be per minute a few meters. It may be 20-30 meters or 100 meters. It depends. Different animals have different rates of conduction within the same animals. For a human body, different neurons will have different rates of conduction, and the diameter of this axon will also matter. Lots of physics is involved. How the diameter of the axon will matter the rate of conduction and so on. The thicker the axon, more faster will be the conduction. वगैरे बऱ्याच अशा गोष्टी आहेत. खूप मजा. So this is what we want to understand, and that is how some new information probably you have gathered about the neurons. We have a small break here. Pause. So we have considered the way the electrical current is produced and it flows through the chain of neurons. But some of you may have some fundamental question. If anyway electricity is to be passed, why there is this discontinuity? Why the wire is not continuous? If you consider axon with the wire, why it is not continuous? Okay, I'll explain this to you. See here, this is one neuron symbolically shown. You can show this as a dendron, and this is an axon, and this is a second neuron, and this is a third neuron, and so on. If these are the neurons, what would have happened if they were continuous? If they were continuous, it would have been something like this, without gaps, and the neurons would have then, in that case, actually joined to each other. What is the difference? Very important thing. Here, what is happening is, there is a synapse, and at the synapse there is a chemical transmission. Please attend to this information very carefully. I can now show here something interesting. Can you imagine? Then at the end again, there will be chemical produced. Again from there will be number of neurons which will pick up the information, and same thing here and here and here and here. You can imagine, if the information is coming from a single axon, that information which is coming from a single axon will be distributed here, 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 everywhere, and from here to this side, and this side, and again each one of them will have hundreds of neurons. Fantastic. If suppose this was not there, if this synapse, the gap was not there, and if it was something like this, then there was no scope. The nature would not have left any scope for message to be transferred to other neurons. Imagine when, and that happens regularly, you know, a regular teaching class is going on, and one of your friend pricks your back from behind with some pointed instrument, and you are interested in what the teacher is teaching, and your friend who is sitting backside is not interested, so will prick your back with a pointed instrument, and then you will just immediately When you say what does it mean? The entire body has gotten information. Actually, the pointed instrument was pricked only at one small part of the skin, from where the neuron started. Information went to brain, and entire body comes in action. Or you simply think that you're walking, and then you happen to have your foot falling on a very pointed prickle or a thorn, you can say. Okay, so I'm just walking. See here, I'm just walking. So that single point, the skin of my foot was pricked, but entire body comes in action. How does this happen? It happens because message is sent to the brain, and then brain will send back the electrical impulse to all muscles of the body. Oh my God! So entire body comes in action. This is possible only because of these kinds of networking. This networking is possible only because of the gap, the synapse. If there was a single, suppose there was a single point, and if the information would have gone from the sensory neuron and directly to one motor neuron, then probably this much would have happened. Just you would have only one small action. No, when you have a certain action to be performed, many of your body parts may have to come in action, and in that case message has to be at a time delivered to many neurons. Fantastic. What a great design nature has made. This is all being understood, and special chemicals are there. Some of those chemicals you might have heard: serotonin, adrenaline, acetylcholine. So when you think of the nervous tissue, nervous system and neural system, whatever you call, you can't only think of the axons. Along with axons, you must also think of the gaps. Where are those gaps? I just point out those gaps. This is a synapse. Here is a synapse. There are synapses everywhere. Everywhere there are synapses. So synapses are equally important. It has been found by the modern discoveries that many of the problems of the nervous system, neural system, Not all of them are due to axon problems. Many of them are due to problems of the synapse, the chemicals there. So this is something which will be beyond the scope of the foundation course, but I am just making you realize one point, that these synapses are important. Many of these disorders of the nervous system are related to synapses. Synaptic transmission is very important. Which of the two will be faster and which of the two will be slower? Electrical message will be faster, obviously, and chemical message will be slightly slow, slightly. But even then, overall it is quite fast. But if you divide the time, the electrical impulse is faster and chemical impulses which are taking place will be slower. So that's all how the message transfer occurs. And this message is what is called as impulse. So impulse may be electrical or it may be chemical. So this is what we have talked about the neurons, and with that now I will pass on to the typical study of the nervous system of any animal, neural system of any animal vertebrate, and it is divided into the divisions which I will now actually show on the board. So the neural system may be divided. Okay, I'll keep this here as it is. Our neural system, it is the same as nervous system. Traditionally it is divided as central nervous system, peripheral nervous system, and autonomic nervous system. I think this much I've seen one of the book of the 7th standard, one of the boards, which has all this information. I wonder whether a 7th standard student is able to grasp this. But it seems that the syllabi of all boards, our Maharashtra State Board, the Central Board, the ICSE and other boards, they are expecting students to know more and more and more. And therefore, I think your schools, your teachers and the classes which you attended during your school, they have made a sincere effort to upgrade the knowledge. And the foundation course will also pick up the same thread to make sure that your knowledge becomes upgraded. So, central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, peripheral nervous system, nerves, which nerves? Cranial and spinal, and autonomic nervous system, sympathetic, parasympathetic. काही वेळा तुम्हाला बोर झालं होतं शिकताना, आठवा आजही तुम्ही म्हणाल परत तेच कटकट, थोडंसं थांबा, आपण ते इंटरेस्टिंग करायचा प्रयत्न करू. This is one way. It is also possible to, this is one way of division of the nervous tissue. In many books of your schools, and of course later books that you are going to refer, the neural system seems to be classified as central nervous system, in which you have brain and spinal cord, and then there is a peripheral nervous system. And the peripheral nervous system, these books would like to divide into what is called as somatic and visceral nervous system, somatic component and visceral component. And somatic component will have cranial nerves and spinal nerves, and the visceral component will have sympathetic and parasympathetic component. Not feeling interested? Even I am not interested. Don't worry. Basically, the brain and the cord, they make central nervous system. That much is agreeable. Nerves start from brain, nerves start from spinal cord, and they become peripheral nervous system. So these are the nerves. These are the nerves. Here also peripheral nervous system is nerves. The only thing is that this ANS, that is autonomic nervous system, is being put up here as the visceral component of the peripheral nervous system. Don't worry about whether this is to be followed or this is to be followed. That's not the issue. The thing is that we have some additional set of structures which can regulate our activity. You know, brain is busy, spinal cord is busy, and so it may be necessary that all the internal organs, stomach, intestine, liver, pancreas, spleen, testes, ovary, liver, they have to be controlled by brain. So to control them, a special section is made, and that is called as visceral component or autonomic nervous system, which is happening automatically. See, when I am trying to tell you these things, my brain is busy, my spinal cord is busy because I am making action. My brain is busy because I'm forming, I'm trying to make a sequence of my sentences. But at the same time, when my muscles are busy and my brain is active for controlling my muscles, at the same time, heart is beating, lungs are working, diaphragm is working, stomach, intestines are at work. It means that there must be some arrangement to control them. And that arrangement is called as autonomic nervous system, which may be sympathetic and parasympathetic. I think these words come in the books and you always feel giddy about them. Okay, I'll try to make some of those issues little unfolded for you. But if you don't understand the ALS immediately, I can understand. You can always think of the brain and the spinal cord, and the nerves. We start from brain and the spinal cord. I'll just show you a picture now here, and this picture will provide to you some information about what I'm trying to say. So here will be a picture which can provide to you the kind of organization the nervous system will be having. Yeah, here it is. So you can look here, you will find that there is brain and the spinal cord, the brain and the spinal cord. Central nervous system, brain and spinal cord. That's very clear. Then what is peripheral nervous system? Mainly the nerves. Which nerves? Some nerves which will start from brain, which are not shown here, and the nerves which are starting from spinal cord, which are shown here. So nerves which are starting from brain and nerves which are starting from spinal cord, those constitute peripheral nervous system. What is a nerve? Actually, a nerve is a thread-like structure. In human body, so 31 pairs of spinal nerves and 12 pairs of cranial nerves. 31 pairs and 12 pairs. 31 pairs, that means 62, and 12 pairs means 24. So 62 plus 24, those many threads are there in our body. And these threads are, each thread is made up of many axons. So please understand, the peripheral nervous system is that which consists of the nerves starting from the brain and starting from the spinal cord. When I say nerve, I'm sure many of us are likely to get confused. This is once again the picture of the neuron. This is one neuron, and you know that the second neuron, there is going to be a gap. First neuron, second neuron, there is a gap, synapse, etc., etc. Now, this break is not it is not to show that it is cut off. It is just to, when such breaks are shown in a long structure, it is to indicate that it is a very long break. Don't think that it is a break. Many of our friends, many of the students have a problem of understanding diagrams. I think one very important skill that you must develop side by side for learning biology, physics, chemistry, etc. is to understand diagram. So I'm just trying to say that this is continuous, you know. This length is there. You can't show a very long axon in a diagram. So such a break will indicate that the axon is very long. So please understand that many such axons come together and that makes a nerve. After some time I'll make this point very clear. Nerve fiber and nerve. Fiber means axon. What is an axon? It's a part of a nerve cell. It's minute, microscopic. And many such fibers, many such axons, means many such fibers come together, and that is what makes the nerve. A given nerve will have many lakhs of fibers. Please understand that. So if you are not getting up that point just now, it's quite okay. I think it is better that we start talking about the brain. Here is now the very typical arrangement. You can see here the skull, and it is in the skull that the brain is located. This is the brain, the cerebrum, and this is cerebellum, pons, and the medulla. Don't worry about B1, B2, B3, D1, D2, they are not for you. This diagram was made for a different purpose, but it is being used. So don't worry. You don't have to bother about A and G, what is F and what is E. It is not for you. This diagram was made for a different purpose. So I'm just trying to say, this is the skull, the brain box. I think you have seen that skull. I'll show it again. So it is in the skull of the brain box that the brain is located. And the brain is located here, very comfortably protected. Here is the skull, and you have seen it once, so I'm just trying to show it to you again. That, yeah, here is the skull, the brain box. With the special instrument, this skull was already cut into pieces, and you can see now these two half portions. It is this cavity which contains this cavity that contains the brain. This is an absolutely real skull, thanks to Dr. Satyen Joshi, orthopedic surgeon, and who has given this opportunity to the Learning Center. Dr. Satyen Joshi is a famous orthopedic surgeon of Nasik, and I'm so happy to have him as my friend today, and long back he was my student. So this is how the skull is there, and this skull protects the brain. We have the skull. So volume of this brain, it may be about 1500 plus minus cc. That is how the volume is talked about, and weight will also be almost 1.5 kg, little less or more. This is a brain box. Excellent. It's called as cranium. The whole thing is called a skull. And skull has the top part which contains the brain, and that is called as cranium. One of our demonstrations later on, which will be done in a day or two, will be about the brain, and we are going to show you the brain actually. So this is how the brain is very nicely protected. Now the picture that you are observing here on the screen is all about the protection that the brain gets. And you can then imagine the surgeons which are operating on brain. Oh my God, how are they operating? Because the whole thing is covered by a skull. There are various techniques, and they are able to remove a small piece. They are able to separate those bones temporarily, and then suppose there is a tumor, they will operate on that and they will join back. My God, but I think surgeries are great and people are able to do it. Neurosurgeons are great people who are able to do it. They can operate from here. Oh my God. And some of them can operate through the nose also. They can reach from here. Yeah, some of the pituitary operations may have to be done that way, because you can't, if suppose pituitary operation is to be done, you can't open it from this side. Then the whole brain will be disturbed. Brain is very soft. So various techniques are there. Surgery is a great branch. You must always think of going into surgery, because surgery is one of the great branches. And surgeries, you become super surgeons, and you become surgeon for heart, surgeon for brain, and surgeon for kidney, and surgeon for thyroid. Specializations are there. Okay, so that's neurosurgery and so on. Okay, I'll show you a lot of pictures now. When we think of the brain, we think of the cerebrum and cerebellum, and here is a picture. Here you can look at the whole thing is cerebrum, and this is cerebellum. Once again, cerebrum and cerebellum. Cerebrum has lobes. Some of your school books, maybe ICSE or state board book may be showing lobes. This is a frontal lobe. This is a parietal lobe, blue. This is the occipital lobe. Frontal, repeat after me, say frontal, parietal, occipital lobe. This is temporal lobe. This is temporal lobe. So which are the lobes? Frontal. Because this is to the front side. Parietal, it is here on the top. So frontal lobe will be inside here, then parietal, then occipital lobe. And then this is temporal lobe. But one thing, actually there are two frontal lobes because the entire cerebrum is divided into two parts, one half here and one half here. So two frontal lobes, two parietal lobes, two frontal, two parietal, two occipital lobes, and on one side, each side, temporal lobes. These lobes are conventionally mentioned like this: frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal lobe. I am not talking of cerebellum, I am talking only of cerebrum. There is one more lobe inside, that's called as insula, but I think we are not going to bother for that. This picture which was already shown to you, I am going to repeat the picture here, because the earlier slide the lobes were colored, you could identify them. But from here, if you want to identify, this is the frontal lobe, this is the parietal lobe. Come on, say what is this? Frontal, parietal and occipital lobe. And this is the temporal lobe. Don't worry about these names. You know, these diagrams have been adapted from the great book of Tortora, Anatomy Physiology. So don't worry about everything. So whenever these things in the PDF form will reach you, don't worry about every level. So you should know these parts. And you know, there are membranes. You probably heard that brains are covered by membranes. Can you just tell me what are those membranes called as? By chance, if you are alert, of course, in schools. Yes, somebody remembers them. Meninges. By chance, if you know, good. If you don't know, don't worry. So meninges are membranes on the brain, and I am not going to talk about meninges. There are covers, 3 covers, and you can see some shining thing here. That's a cover. Okay? म्हणजे असं तुम्ही कल्पना करू शकता की ब्रेन भोवती 3 वेस्टर्न आहेत, 3 कव्हर घातले and they protect them. So brain has 3 covers and then skull. The brain has 3 covers, then the skull, and then the skin, and then the hair. So lot of protection is there. And त्याच्यावर पुन्हा हेल्मेट वर हे ॲडिशनल नंतर असतं ते, पण ते घालायला पाहिजे. Okay, so I'll go for some of the pictures very fast now. Here it is. Frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe. So what is most interesting here is all folds. Very important. Cerebrum is with lot of folds, and I think you can imagine why the folds are there. Imagine why the folds are there. Folds are there because there has to be more surface area. Cerebrum is folded, cerebellum is folded. Why the folds? Folds have technical names called as sulcus and gyrus. Don't worry about that. But what is the need of the folds? Why these folds are there? Folds are there because surface area must be more. Now the next question is, why the surface area should be more? Surface area must be more because more neurons must be accommodated. You know, cell bodies are all neurons are present on the surface. A new point, please understand it very carefully. Axons are long, they will pass deeper inside the brain. Axons are long, they will pass deeper inside the brain, and the surface of the brains will have cell bodies and billions of cell bodies. To accommodate the billions of cell bodies, there must be more surface. Brain size must be comparatively small and surface must be more. Brain size must be small, surface must be more. What is the solution? Solution is to have folds. So when there are folds, automatically more surface area is generated, and with more surface area, more cell bodies can be accommodated. A nice slice has been taken out. You can see this is there is a word like cortex again, cerebral cortex. And then inside there will be more of the axons. I think we will not be able to go into those details just now. I can help you to see this brain from underside. आठवा तुम्ही फ्रॉग ब्रेनचा पण वेंट्रल साइडचा व्ह्यू बघितला होता. तर इथे पण आहे. दिस इज द इन्फिरियर साइड ऑफ द ब्रेन and these are the two optic nerves coming from the two eyes. So cerebrum, and this is the cerebellum, and this is the beginning of the spinal cord. Some of you books interestingly have gone into those details, and if you take the section of the brain, it may look like this. Yeah, one of the books of one of the boards has shown the section of the brain. I wonder whether those days whether you have been able to understand it. If the brain is sectioned, it will look like this: cerebrum, cerebellum. This is very interesting part. This is the thalamus and hypothalamus, and the pituitary is attached here. Okay, cerebrum, cerebellum, thalamus, hypothalamus, and attached to that is pituitary. This is pons and this is medulla. तुम्हाला खूप जड जात असेल तर जेवढं जमेल तेवढं करा. सीबीएसईच्या स्टुडंट्सना थोडे जास्त जड जात असण्याची शक्यता आहे. याचं कारण असं की आम्ही सीबीएसईची पुस्तकं बघितली तर त्यांच्यामध्ये हे डिटेल्स काही त्यांनी दिलेले नाही आहेत पुरेसे. असतील तर चांगलंच आहे, पण नसतील तर तुम्हाला ती काळजी घेतली पाहिजे. स्टेट बोर्डच्या पुस्तकांमध्ये आहे, ICSEच्या पुस्तकांमध्ये आहे. सगळे बोर्ड्स एकमेकांची पुस्तकं तुम्ही वापरा. काही ठिकाणी सीबीएसई पुस्तकं चांगली आहेत, काही ठिकाणी स्टेट बोर्ड चांगले आहेत, आणि 11वी 12वीत तेच होणार आहे. 11वी 12वीत फक्त NCERT वापरून होणार नाहीये. तुम्हाला NCERT बरोबर स्टेट बोर्डाची पुस्तकं वापरावी लागतील. याचं कारण आहे पुष्कळ टॉपिक स्टेट बोर्ड बुकमध्ये तेच टॉपिक, कारण नॅशनल सिलेबस आहे काय जास्त चांगले दिले. फक्त NCERTची पुस्तकं सेंट्रल बोर्डाची वापरून चालणार नाहीत. त्याच्यात खूप त्रुटी आहेत. आणि स्टेट बोर्डाची पुस्तकं, महाराष्ट्र स्टेट बोर्डाची पुस्तकं त्याचबरोबर त्याच टॉपिकवर त्याच सिलेबसवर आहेत. ती नीटसाठी पण आहेत. असं काही नीटसाठी वेगळं असं नाही. काहींना असं वाटतं की नीटचा अभ्यास वेगळा आहे आणि स्टेट म्हणजे 12वीचा परीक्षेचा अभ्यास वेगळा. असं अजिबात नाही. सगळं सिलेबस एकच आहे. तेव्हा ही कमीत कमी 2 पुस्तकं वापरायची. ओके, आणखी काही 1-2 पिक्चर्स बघू. ब्रेनचे वेगवेगळ्या प्रकारे सेक्शन घेता येतात बघा. इट इज पॉसिबल टू टेक अ सेक्शन ऑफ द ब्रेन दिस वे. हे बघा, मगाशी सेक्शन बघितला तो असा होता. मी असं कापलं माझा ब्रेन. आता इथे असा कापतोय आपण, असा या बाजूने. So this is how, this is another section, anterior view of the frontal section. Frontal section म्हणायचं. पुन्हा एकदा हे सगळं काय सेरेब्रम, सेरेब्रम आहे ना, कारण आपण फक्त सेरेब्रम मधलं सेक्शन घेतलंय. तुम्ही कदाचित काहींनी थॅलामस शब्द तुमच्या पुस्तकामध्ये आलाय. मी सगळी स्कूल बुक्स तुमची बघत असतो. हे लेक्चर देण्याच्या आधी आम्ही भरपूर तयारी करतो आणि त्याच्यामध्ये आम्हाला माहित असतं की कुठे कुठे काय काय शिकलाय. सो सम ऑफ यू हॅव हर्ड दिस वर्ड थॅलामस. या ठिकाणी सगळं हायपोथॅलॅमस आहे. इथे पिट्युटरी ग्लँड अटॅच असते. आपण त्या सेक्शन, त्या लेवलला सेक्शन घेतला नाही म्हणून. सो दिस इज वन सेक्शन. डोंट वरी अबाउट सच डायग्राम्स. बट आय थिंक मेनी ऑफ यू विल बी इंटरेस्टेड इन दिस काइंड ऑफ प्रेझेंटेशन. येस, ब्रेन हॅज, cerebrum has centers for reception of various sensory impulses. You know, hearing on the temporal lobe. When I am saying something, vibrations are entering into your external ear, from external ear to middle ear, from middle ear to inner ear. तुम्हाला माहिती आहे ना, 3 parts of the ear. From inner ear, from cochlea, तो part तुम्हाला माहिती आहे. It is here the sound vibrations will reach up to cochlea, and from cochlea the nerve will start, and the nerve will take the message to the hearing center. तुम्ही मला बघताय सगळे, तुमच्या डोळ्यापासून नर्व्स आहेत. So the message from your eyes is going to the vision center, which is here, which is backside. So hearing is there on the temporal, hearing center is there on the temporal lobe. Vision center is on the occipital lobe. Smell center is close by to the hearing lobe. I am talking, and messages for movements of my tongue and jaws are starting from the speech center. Speech center by chance काही ना माहित असेल, ब्रोकाज एरिया नसेल माहित, ठीक आहे. Speech center is located here. So speech center, complicated thinking center, hearing, smell, vision, touch. My God, म्हणजे मॅपिंग झालंय, इतकं छान मॅपिंग झालंय की तुम्हाला मी एक डायग्राम दाखवतो. त्यांनी असे मॅप्स तयार केलेत ब्रेनचे, फंक्शनल एरियाज ऑफ सेरेब्रम. म्हणजे काय ते लक्षात घ्या. सो इट इज पॉसिबल टू नो which part of the cerebrum is having a particular function. This सगळे पार्ट्स ते आपण इथे बघणार नाही, मी तुम्हाला सांगितलं त्याप्रमाणे. So these are all different centers. All these numbers indicate the functions. The cerebrum is a big part and it has different parts of the brain have different functions. Some are concerned with hearing, some are concerned with touch, understanding of the touch, some are concerned with the vision, for example here, and thinking and so on. Surgeons have to be careful. समजा ब्रेन ऑपरेशन चाललेलं आहे तर त्यांना हे माहीत असतं की कुठल्या भागात ते ऑपरेशन करतात. सो इट इज दे हॅव टू मेक शुअर दॅट दे आर नॉट डिस्टर्बिंग दॅट पार्ट. असं होऊ शकतं की दॅट ड्युरिंग द सर्जरी सपोज दॅट पार्ट गेट्स डॅमेज, देन दॅट फंक्शन विल बी लॉस्ट एक्सेट्रा. असं लगेच होत नाही. सर्जन्स आर ग्रेट पीपल, सो दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू अलाउ दिस टू हॅपन. बट दॅट्स व्हॉट आय एम ट्राइंग टू से. So basically how these things are discovered, it must have been a great troublesome research how to know what part of the brain does what. A lot of experiments were done. At least 2-3 things are done. Most of these researches were done on animals. Directly human वर कोण एक्सपेरिमेंट करू देणार आहे. म्हणून झुलॉजी, बेसिक सायन्स फार महत्त्वाचं आहे. Even today animals are being used for experiment. They have tried to attach electrodes to the different brain parts, and accordingly then they have processed the electrical impulses, and from that indirectly they have been able to gauge those things. I know it must be very difficult. It's not as easy as I am trying to say. For example, Jagruti, which I told you, our student, my student of 2008, she worked on goat. My God, तुम्ही म्हणाल गोटवरच्या अभ्यासाचा ह्युमनला काय उपयोग? Her research was to know how the impulses from the eyes they go to the visual center which is on the back, and how those things are processed. Experiments have to be done on goats, monkeys, rats. Then only you can say all medical science today is based on experiments done on animals. हे तुम्ही विसरू नका. So that is how from those experiments. Moreover, on humans you know what you can do? Accidents occur, and during accident certain part of the brain gets damaged. And from the part of the brain that is damaged, a certain function may be lost. Accidents occurred, brain may get damaged, and it is possible to know which part of the brain is damaged and which function is lost. Suppose a certain accident is there where vision is lost, and suppose that part must be visual area, and so on and so forth. So that's how, through animal experimentation and through the observations of the patients, people have been able to make such maps of the brain. My God, science is great, and these things have happened. I will now just pick up 2 more slides. Nothing very special. In fact, it's all the same repetition. I'm not going to say anything more about it. You can just have a look at this. So this again auditory area, this is visual area, thinking, memory, all is frontal side here. आणि म्हणूनच तुम्हाला काय आठवायचं असतं की तुम्ही असं 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 करता ना, असं असं नाही करत कोणी, असं 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 करता. का बरं? इथे स्टिम्युलेट करता तुम्ही. फ्रंटल एरिया, थिंकिंग, स्पीच एरिया, ब्रोकाज एरिया इज हियर. Many interesting things are there, and that's how I think we have tried to understand a little bit about the brain. But understand, this brain is all nothing but axons, I mean the cell bodies and the axon. One of the great organs, one of the fantastic creations of the nature. And to have a little more information, we take a pause. Central nervous system, brain and spinal cord. Brain, to some extent, we have revised. Now let's go for spinal cord. Spinal cord. What is the breakup of the word? A cord. Cord is a rope which is passing through spine. What do you mean by spine? Spine means vertebral column. Brain is located in the brain box, cranium, which is a part of the skull. And from there, the vertebral column begins. It's also a bone. Skull is a bone, vertebral column is also made up of small pieces of bones, and through that the spinal cord passes. So just like brain is protected by the brain box made up of bone, similarly the spinal cord is also delicate. It's about 2 centimeters in diameter, and it is very delicate organ, and it passes through the vertebral column. Here is the vertebral column. This is the vertebral column. It is made up of vertebrae, a real vertebral column, a true vertebral column. And this particular plastic material which is passing through the imaginative spinal cord. So spinal cord is like this. It is passing through the cavity. This is a cavity. It is this cavity through which the spinal cord will pass. So these are all real bones, and the spinal cord is here. It will be here like this, and through that this spinal cord will pass. So just like skull is protected, the spinal cord is protected. This is called a spine, means vertebral column, and a cord inside, the rope-like structure inside, is being called as spinal cord. Let's get some more information about the spinal cord. Here once again a similar diagram which earlier also you have seen. From the brain the spinal cord begins, about 2 centimeters in diameter and about 40 or 42 centimeters in length. It passes through the neck, through the back, and also in the lumbar region, and it ends here. And nerves are starting from the spinal cord. You can see the nerves which are starting from the spinal cord. Spinal cord, I think I mentioned that it is an assistant to the brain. I told you it is a secretary to the brain. Suppose the brain wants to send messages to my arms. What is the connection? How the brain can send the messages? Suppose message is being sent to my hand, that use a pointer and show it here. That's the order coming from my brain. So from my brain, the message will go to the spinal cord, and from spinal cord there is a spinal nerve, and the message will be going through the spinal nerve through my arm, and the message will go to my fingers, and I will hold the pointer and show it to you. So you can imagine, below the head there is so much of body. Most of the body is below the head, and brain is present only in the head region. So much of action of this body, not only of the muscles, not only of the external muscles, even the internal muscles, all of them will be guided by the brain, and brain is helpless without spinal cord. It is the spinal cord through which the messages will be transferred. Please understand. So spinal cord is equally important as the brain. Just like brain has lots of neurons, spinal cord also has lots of neurons. Those details are many, but I will simply say that the spinal cord is having a nature with respect to compared to the brain, it will have neurons, but then structurally it is more simpler. I'll show you a picture to make you aware what the spinal cord looks like. Cell bodies are ultimately there. In the brain also the cell bodies and the axons are there. Similarly here also the cell bodies will be there here. Can you see this grey part? It is here that the cell bodies are there. In the brain, the cell bodies are on the surface. What do you mean by cell bodies? Cell bodies are the cytons, structure of the neuron. Cell bodies are the cytons, and the long thread is axon. In the brain, the cytons are present on the surface and axons are deeper down. Here it is reverse. Here the cell bodies are located all here, and the axons will be to the periphery. The cell bodies are inside, and periphery there are the fibers, and this is the cylinder. Yes, just like brain has 3 covers, I told you 3 covers, meninges. I catch it now. बरं ऐकून टाक. चिंता नाही करायची, लक्षात ठेवण्याची गरज नाही. ब्रेन हॅज 3 कव्हर्स. इनरमोस्ट, पाया माटर. middle arachnoid, topmost dura mater. 3 covers, most outer dura, middle arachnoid, innermost pia. जमलं तर लक्षात ठेवा, नाही तर नुसतं 3 कवर्स. 3 कवर्स कसे लक्षात ठेवायचे? आउटर, मिडल, इनर. काय फरक पडतो? नावं आली तरच सगळं आहे का बायोलॉजी? नाही. 3 कवर्स आर देअर. देर आर 3 कवर्स ऑन ब्रेन अँड द सेम 3 कवर्स कंटिन्यू हियर. हे बघा, हे कवर्स दिसत आहेत. ओके, सो दिस इज द वर्ड पाया मॅटर ब्लू. दिस इज पर्पल कलर्ड arachnoid and dura orange. Colors है just symbolic. So just like brain has 3 covers, spinal cord is also having 3 covers. Oh, काय गंमत आहे निसर्गाची. बघा कसं प्रोटेक्शन आहे ब्रेनला. Brain is protected by skull and 3 covers. Spinal cord is protected by the spine and 3 covers. That's it. These are the nerves. These are the nerves which are called as spinal nerves. थोडंसं क्लोज लुक आपण घेऊ. हाऊ द स्पायनल नर्व्स लुक लाईक बघूया. सी द स्पायनल नर्व्स. आय टोल्ड यू दिस इज द एच लाईक थिंग. असं वाटतंय ना, एच वाटतंय. देअर द सेल बॉडीज आर देअर. These are all the axons here. And this is the spinal nerve. And these are the meninges. This is a spinal cord structure. Spinal cord has a two-way traffic from brain to body parts and body parts to brain. So this diagram shows you the two-way traffic. See the arrows. Some messages are being transferred from brain to body parts and some messages are being transferred from body parts to brain. आता याला ascending tracks म्हणतात. So here the brain is this side. So messages are coming from body parts to brain and these are descending tracks. So the messages are going from brain to body parts. Of course, these messages will be passing through the nerves. So this is how spinal cord has a two-way traffic from brain to body parts and body parts to brain via spinal nerves. खूप डिटेल्सची फाउंडेशन कोर्सला गरज नाही, पण तरी बघून टाका. इतकं बोलले तेवढं बघून टाका. See, this is that H-shaped structure which I was talking about. It has got all cell bodies. थोड्या डायग्रामची गरज काय तुम्हाला सांगतो. तुमच्या स्कूल बुक्स मध्ये रिफ्लेक्स आर्क आणि रिफ्लेक्स ऍक्शन अशा काही टर्म्स आलेले आहेत आणि त्याच्याबद्दल आपल्याला शिकायचं. सो आय थिंक इट इज बेटर दॅट यू नो द सेक्शन. सो दिस इज द सेक्शन ऑफ द स्पायनल कॉर्ड अँड दिस इज अ ट्रान्सवर्स सेक्शन. ट्रान्सवर्स सेक्शन म्हणजे काय कळतं का तुम्हाला? इफ दिस इज द स्टिक, if I'm taking a section like this, it's called as a transverse section. Imagine करा क्या spinal cord है and I'm taking a section. तो मग section असा दिसेल की नाही? Section मध्ये हे असा हा surface दिसेल. So this is the section and it has got a cavity. Brain has cavity. I told you brain has cavities. Spinal cord also has cavities. And we are going to use this kind of diagram to understand how the simplest form of neural action can occur. What is the simplest form of neural action? Reflex arc. Let's go for a drawing of that sort. Here you have now, these are the typical drawings in your books. I think all boards, either in 8th, 9th or 10th, one of the year you have this kind of a drawing. This is the piece of the spinal cord. Sensory input to the central nervous system. Motor output, atva. Input, output. Input is by way of receptors. Skin is a receptor, will be shown here. Output is either muscles or glands. This is a muscle. And the CNS, the central nervous system, will have integration. Integration is a process of converting the sensory input into useful output. Your friend pricked your skin, मगाशी मी सांगितलं. And if the friend is pricking your skin, तुम्ही काय म्हणाले? So you're just trying to push him. I mean, trying to show your response by way of asking him to stop. So muscles will work. So that is what is happening. So this is how sensory input, motor output, that is by muscles, and the integration will be taking place here. Here we have once again a chain of neurons and you can see 3 neurons Minimum 3 neurons, you can imagine. A neuron that's from receptor, that is sense organ, to the central nervous system. What you will call this as? Sensory neuron. हे सगळं स्कूल बुक्स मध्ये आहे बरं का, मला हे येणं अपेक्षित आहे. Once again, when such a action occurs, your friend is pricking you and you are trying to show your response by jerking your arm or returning back with a blow. What is happening? Sensory input. The message is carried from receptor to the central nervous system by what is called as sensory neuron. What do you mean by sensory neuron? Sensory neuron is that which starts from receptor, that is sense organ like skin or ear or eye, and carries the message to the central nervous system. Motor neuron. What do you mean by motor neuron? Motor neuron is that which begins from the central nervous system and gets connected to the muscles or the glands. Sensory input, motor output. What is there in between? Sensory input, then the central nervous system integration, and this is motor output. So you have 3 neurons: sensory neuron, motor neuron, and in between them there is a connector neuron. It can be called as interneuron, it can be called as a connector neuron, many names are there. But remember, although this is a chain of 3 neurons, there will be minimum 2 synapses and one more synapse will be here at the end. So these synapses are gaps. Neurons are never actually connected. So electrical transmission, then chemical, then again electrical, then again chemical, then again electrical, and again chemical. So the principle remains same. This is the popular diagram that you have learned in your school books, and it is being called as reflex arc, and the action which is generated because of this is called as reflex action. What do you mean by reflex arc? What do you mean by arc? Arc is a pathway, and why it is called as arc? Because it is curved pathway. Curved pathway of neurons arc. Action, what part will show the action? The muscles will show the action. So the muscles will show the action, that is reflex action. When the pin is pricked, immediately you show the response. असं आहे का की पिन प्रिक झाल्यावर 10 मिनिटांत तुम्ही असं करा? नाही. When the pin is pricked, immediately you will show the response. So it is fast. So it is reflex action. Action is shown by the effector, that is muscle. And the pathway is called as reflex arc. बऱ्याच लोकांचं कन्फ्युजन असतं, रिफ्लेक्स आर्क आणि रिफ्लेक्स ॲक्शन यातला फरकच कळत नाही. व्हॉट इज आर्क? आर्क इज द पाथवे, द चेन ऑफ न्यूरॉन्स थ्रू which the message travels. And what is action? Action is the actual activity shown by the person. Here we have a pause. So reflex arc for reflex action, that is what I was talking about. Reflex arc. What is reflex arc? It is a chain of neurons. Once again the same. Central nervous system because it is spinal cord. Same diagram. Pin pricked by your friend onto the skin. Skin is receptor. Electrical impulse will go here. This entire thing is called as sensory neuron. इथे थोडी confusion ची शक्यता आहे. This is the axon and this is a dendron. Usually when you draw axons, when you look at the diagrams of neurons, you find that dendron is small and axon is long. I'll repeat my statement. Whenever we think of drawing a neuron, dendron is small and axon is long. However, for sensory neuron, the dendron is small, long, and the axon is short. Don't worry if you don't understand this. Overall, from this end to this end, what is this? Sensory neuron. What do you mean by sensory neuron? Incoming message. A neuron that brings a message from receptor to central nervous system. That is sensory neuron. Sensory neuron is ending here. Then, before the motor neuron starts, between sensory neuron and motor neuron, there is what is called as association neuron. This is the association neuron here, which is being shown to you. So, this is the association neuron. Understand this one. This one is the association neuron. This one. This is sensory neuron, this is association neuron, and this is the motor neuron. So 3 neurons. Message from sensory neuron passes on to the association neuron with a synapse. Message from the association neuron, which is connector neuron, will go to the motor neuron through the synapse. Once again, message kasa will first electrical, then chemical, again electrical, then chemical, again electrical, and then again chemical. That's how things happen. So this is how the message is continuously being transferred. Please understand this. So this is a chain of neurons, and this chain of neurons is called as reflex arc. And action will be shown by the muscle. Muscle or the gland is the motor part, and it will show the action. And when the message will travel through this reflex arc, action will be shown. So reflex action is different. Reflex action is the result of the message flow over the reflex arc. Finally, lastly, I will say reflex arc is a chain of neurons, and reflex action is the result of the flow of information. It is the activity shown by the muscles or the glands. This is how neural action occurs. So the purpose of this drawing is to make you aware of the reflex arc and reflex action, and also the second purpose is this is how things happen. पण मग हे जर असं मी तुम्हाला म्हटलं हाऊ डू वी थिंक, कारण ब्रेनचं ते पण फंक्शन आहे ना, थिंकिंग, मेमरी, इमॅजिनेशन, हे कसं काय होत असेल, तर हे इतकं सोपं नाही आहे. हे सांगणं खूप सोपं आहे की रिफ्लेक्स ऍक्शन होते, ते इट्स सिम्पल टू एक्सप्लेन. बट brain, spinal cord is not involved in thinking, but brain is involved in thinking, imagination, judgment, problem solving. कसं काय होत असेल? Oh my God, it is not easy to explain this, and science is on way to know these things. काही गोष्टी माहीत झाल्यात, पण अजूनही हे सगळं काही कळलेलं नाही बरं का. So this is simple way to understand the neural action. Because reflex action is one of the simplest way to understand neural action. हे एक statement होगा. In what way neurons are related to nerves? काही वेळा आपण न्यूरॉन्स वापरतो, काही वेळा शब्द फायबर वापरतो, काही वेळा ॲक्झॉन्स, काही वेळा नर्व. गोंधळ होऊन जातो आमचा. आपण तो गोंधळ सगळा दूर करणार आहोत. हे लक्षात ठेवा. We are going to learn in what way neurons are related to nerves. But for that we will probably take an opportunity to once again go to this board to make some of the points clear with the pause. So we have learned brain and spinal cord, and now we go back to the understanding of the 3 divisions of the nervous system: CNS, PNS, ANS. Let us take into account peripheral nervous system. And as was already told to you, the peripheral nervous system is a periphery. What do you mean by periphery? See, brain and spinal cord, they make the central axis of the nervous system. And periphery means what? You know, all the various nerves starting from brain and going to all sides, both sides. And all the nerves starting from the spinal cord going to all sides. Periphery, they are connected to the periphery. So that's called as peripheral nervous system. So peripheral nervous system is nothing but nerves. What are nerves? We are going to learn what a nerve is. But there are cranial nerves related to brain and spinal nerves related to spinal cord. 12 pairs of cranial nerves are there. It means from my brain, this side there are 12 threads, and this side there are 12 threads. 12 and 12, 24 threads, 24 spinal nerves. I'm sorry, 24 cranial nerves. Yeah, these are present in all mammals. All mammals will have 24 cranial nerves. 12 and 12, 12 pairs. Maybe a tiger, maybe an elephant, maybe a mouse, maybe a giraffe. 12 pairs of cranial nerves. That's constant. And these will supply to the Sorry, ultimately it's head. So there will be eyes, ears, tongue, nose. Major sense organs are all located here. Face. And many of these cranial nerves are supplying to the organs here. And one cranial nerve, which is long, which will start from brain and will go to the inner organs. I'm just mentioning that nerve, vagus nerve. By chance, if you want to remember, vagus nerve. So out of these 12 pairs of nerve, one nerve is very long, it's called as a vagus nerve, that will go deeper into the body, inside the organ, to supply to the inner organs. And that's called as a vagus nerve. So those are the cranial nerves. From brain to brain. You may ask me why it is written from brain and to brain. Because some nerves will carry information from brain to body parts. Some of the cranial nerves will carry information from body parts to nerve. So from brain means from brain to body parts. To brain means from body parts to nerves. So some nerves will be from the brain to the body parts, some will be from body parts to brain. That's how cranial nerves are, at least of these two types. I will go into some more details of this little later on. Spinal nerves. Spinal nerves are again 31 pairs. Cranial nerves are 12 and 12, 24. Spinal cord is longer, so it has got more nerves. There are 31 pairs. And some of the spinal nerves will carry message from brain to body parts, from brain to spinal cord to body parts, and from body parts to brain, from body parts to spinal cord, and from spinal cord to brain. 31 pairs. So we have thread-like structures. 31 pairs means total 62, and 12 pairs means 24. So 62 and 24 together will be the threads in the body. And some of them are quite thick, some of them are thin, they can be seen. Your first year medical, the first week itself, first month itself, you will be taken to the dissection hall. Human bodies will be lying there. And you will be opening the human body, and you will see the nerves, you will see the muscles, you will see the blood vessels. Are you ready for all that? I think yes. We are going to talk about these things, the nerves you have seen. If possible, we can see them once again. And these nerves can be of three categories: sensory nerves, motor nerves, and mixed nerves. Sensory nerve. What are sensory nerves? Sensory nerves means if there are 12 pairs, some of them are sensory nerves. I'll tell you an example. And these examples are given in your books also. A nerve starting from eye and taking message to the brain. A nerve starting from ear, internal ear, and taking the message to the brain. These are the nerves which are called as sensory nerves. Why they are called as sensory nerves? Because they are carrying the sensation, the message, impulse. Use different words. They are carrying the sensation, that is a message, or the impulse. Message and impulse is same. They are carrying it to the brain. That's how those nerves are sensory. Which are the sensory nerves I just now said? Optic, starting from eye to brain. Auditory, from internal ear to brain. So such nerves will be called as sensory nerves. One more I'll say. Smell, olfactory nerve. Smell, message is the smell message. It will go to the brain. So optic, from eyes to brain. Auditory, from internal ear to brain. And olfactory, which is for smell, from nasal capsules. There is a nasal organ here to the brain. These are all sensory nerves. Only one-way traffic, from eyes to brain, ears to brain, from nasal capsule to brain. So these are all sensory nerves. Then there are some motor nerves. Motor nerves are all starting from brain and giving motor organs. Very interesting. See, I can make the movements of the eye. Can you see this? So my eye has muscles, special eye muscles. Interestingly, 3 out of 12 nerves, 3 out of 12 pairs of nerves, 3 pairs are reserved to make movements of the eye. So these are all motor nerves. These 3 examples I give. There are more. So there are motor nerves. Motor nerves are having only one-way traffic, starting from brain and reaching the organ, carrying orders for the particular action. So sensory nerves, motor nerves. However, there are some mixed nerves. What do you mean by mixed nerves? Mixed nerves are those which can have a two-way traffic from brain to spinal cord to body parts, and from body parts to spinal cord to brain. So that means brain to body parts and body parts to brain. If both way traffic is possible, then it is called as a mixed nerve. If from receptor to brain, sensory nerve. From brain to muscles or brain to glands, motor nerve. Mixed nerve is having both way traffic. So nerves, let me tell you, out of these 12 pairs of nerves, some are sensory, some are motor, and some are mixed. These spinal nerves all are mixed. That means there is a two-way traffic. कंटाळा आहे, खूप जास्त वाटतंय, विसरून जा. तुम्ही जेवढं ऐकता त्याच्या 50% जरी तुम्हाला कळलं तरी पुष्कळ आहे, आणि 25% लक्षात राहिलं तरी तुम्ही फार पुढे जाल मध्ये. जे काही तुम्ही ऐकताय त्याच्यापैकी 50% कळलं तरी खूप आहे, आणि जेवढं कळलं त्याच्या 25% जरी लक्षात राहिलं तरी खूप आहे. लेट मी टेल यू अँड अश्युअर यू अबाउट दिस. रिमेन interested. Don't burden your brains immediately with everything. All this is all going on for two purposes: to generate interest and to allow you to know the expanse, the huge areas of learning, and some of those we can pick up quite okay. That is it. So sensory nerves, motor nerves, and mixed nerves are 3 kinds of nerves. Cranial nerves are sensory, some are motor, some are mixed, and spinal nerves are all mixed. But before that, I need to know what is actually a nerve. Now look at this drawing. Because there is always a problem. I have faced all these problems. For many days in my student life, I did not know exactly what is the difference between a nerve and a nerve fiber. Nerves we know, 12 pairs and 31 pairs, and they are thick. Without a lens also nerves can be observed. But when it comes to the constitution, the composition of the nerve, we should know what is that nerve. Suppose this thread, this whole thread is a nerve. Inside the nerve there are axons. Axons means nerve fibers. I will draw this as an axon. This is a cell body, and this is an axon. This is a neuron. All cell bodies are at one end. Look at these cell bodies. These cell bodies are all present either in the brain or in the spinal cord. A neuron consists of cell body and axon. Cell bodies are all located either in the brain or inside the spinal cord. But axons are long, and axons will pass through nerve. You know already there are billions of neurons. If there are billions of neurons, that means there are billions of cell bodies, and there are billions of axons. So those billions of axons must be connected to the body. A nerve is a collection of these axons. Thousands and thousands and thousands of axons come together, and they get bundled together, and that bundle of axons is what is called as a nerve. So what is this nerve made up of? Nerve is made up of axons. Are there any cell bodies in the nerve? No. Why? Because cell bodies are located either in the brain or in the spinal cord. There was a question here. In what way neurons are related to nerves? That is what we are learning just now. In what way neurons are related to nerves? A neuron will have a cell body and the axon. The cell bodies are located in the brain or spinal cord, and the axons, they pass through the nerves. So all the axons will be passing through the nerves. Most of the cell bodies will have axons passing through the nerves. Some are very short neurons, and they may be inside the brain and inside spinal cord. Their axons may not pass, but in general, for our general simple understanding, the axons will be passing through the nerves. So what is a nerve? Nerve is a bundle of nerve fibers. Nerve fiber is the same as axons. So don't get confused between nerve fiber and nerve. Nerve fiber is one thing and nerve is another thing. Nerve fiber, and whether nerve is made up of nerve fibers or nerve fibers are made up of nerve. Obviously, a nerve is made up of nerve fibers. Now, understand the three types of nerve. Suppose there is a sensory nerve. Then sensory nerve will be carrying the information in only one direction. Which direction? All fibers will carry the information which direction? Towards brain. If it is a motor nerve, information will be carried only from brain to the different organs of the body. If it is a mixed nerve, some of the fibers will be carrying information to the brain and some of the fibers will be carrying information to body parts. So what is a mixed nerve? Mixed nerve will have two types of fiber, sensory fiber and motor fibers. So that is in short about the nerve, and that is in short about the peripheral nervous system. And this particular diagram doesn't tell us anything new, just a division, brain and spinal cord, and the parts of the brain, frontal lobe, cerebrum. Of course, this is basically cerebrum and this is cerebellum. Frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, temporal lobe. Pons and medulla oblongata, simply called as medulla, and medulla continues into spinal cord. Then these are the cranial nerves, symbolically shown. There are not 4 pairs, there are 12 pairs, and they originate from the midbrain and the hindbrain. Yeah, brain can be said to be forebrain, midbrain and hindbrain, but that details will happen later. And there are spinal nerves, 31 pairs, symbolically shown a few. So this is central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, and the nerves will make the peripheral nervous system, cranial nerves and spinal nerves. I did not say much about cerebellum. Cerebrum, that's a hi-fi part of the brain. Frontal lobe has thinking center and imagination center and lot of memory stored there, and speech is also possible, etc., etc. Occipital lobe is concerned with vision, temporal lobe is concerned with hearing and smell and so on. Cerebellum, I think you are all aware, it is related to body equilibrium. I am not falling down because my cerebellum is working. Cerebellum makes lots of good things to us. Firstly, because of cerebellum, we are able to maintain posture, a position. A sitting position, a standing position will be maintained because of the cerebellum. Cerebellum also assists brain. See, whatever orders are given by brain, stand up, sit down. Suppose there is an order, sit down, stand up. Teachers ask you to do it, particularly in the lower classes. Why? Because they want that your cerebellum should work well. You know, the fineness, the accuracy, the beauty of action is all done by cerebellum. So although the brain part will order muscles to work, the fineness, the accuracy of that movement will be adjusted by cerebellum. So cerebellum is involved in balancing, and it is also involved in making the best of your action. Those people who are great dancers, their cerebellum is very active. That's how they are able to generate symmetry while their movements. Those who are good swimmers, their cerebellum is very well developed. Please understand. And so the exercises help that way also. When we are doing different exercises, our cerebellum gets stimulated. Are you doing exercise daily? Are you just lying in the bed the whole day Are you just wasting your time in watching TV? If you are not, that is good. Even if it is lockdown and if you are at home, make sure that you are exercising. We here at Learning Center, 3 of us who are there, myself, Rishikesh sir and Kaustubh sir, we are having daily 1 hour exercise, 1.5 hour exercise daily without fail. And that's how we are trying to be active. Otherwise, this work is not possible. For you also, many of you are exercising and a large number you are not doing any exercises. Please be sure, exercise will help you to tone up your body, it will help you to have better circulation, better brain activity, better thinking, better learning. Okay, so cerebellum. Cerebellum will assist the brain, and the cerebellum and spinal cord together will make the functioning of the brain more effective. I think this is CNS, central nervous system, brain, spinal cord. This is peripheral nervous system, cranial nerves and spinal nerves. Now there is what is called as ANS, CNS, brain and spinal cord. PNS, cranial nerves, spinal nerves. Now something very interesting. आपण नेहमी ANS बद्दल ऐकतो पण नेमकं काही कळत नाही. I think only in the only in the ICSE book, or one of the 10th standard book, they have given many details. So, autonomic nervous system is in the form of these chains of swellings. Brain, spinal cord, central nervous system. Nerves from brain and spinal cord, peripheral nervous system. Then what is autonomic nervous system? Autonomic nervous system is in the form of chains of swellings which are outside brain or outside spinal cord. How many these swellings are there? In human case, it is usually somewhere between 18 to 22 pairs. I have drawn only 6, but you can imagine 18 to 22 on this side and this side. That chain is called as autonomic nervous system. All these swellings are being called as, I'll just write it here. You may like this word. If you don't like, don't remember. Ganglia. Singular, ganglion. These are all ganglia. So the autonomic nervous system consists of 2 chains of swellings. The swellings are called as ganglia. If you don't like the word ganglia, remember they are swellings. मला तर असं वाटतं की हे brains आहेत, छोटे छोटे brains. This is main brain and these are all small brains. From there, nerves are given to different organs. For example, from here, suppose there is here there is heart and there is stomach here. Then from here, nerve will be given to the heart and nerve will be given to the stomach and so on. So all internal organs, this is symbolically shown. It's not exactly like this. Interesting. So the ganglia which belong to the autonomic nervous system, from there fibers are given to heart, stomach, intestine, liver, pancreas, gallbladder, kidney, testes, ovary, spleen, all organs. My brain is busy just now. I am trying to communicate to you different things in different ways. But at the same time, all my internal organs are working. Supposing brain was directly supposed to control them. Suppose the brain is directly controlling them. Then when brain is busy with the mental work, then those organs will suffer. Then messages made and it's working थांबून जाईल किंवा अर्धवट काहीतरी होईल. That's why nature has designed autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system is autonomous. Autonomous is what do you mean by autonomy? Independence. The autonomic nervous system will provide autonomy so that they can keep on sending impulses to these organs and these organs will keep on working. Brain has got a control, but indirect control. For example, I will show you. So brain, whatever through the cranial nerve, it will have a control. So brain will have a control, indirect control. and direct control is through the autonomic nervous system. हे थोडंसं कॉम्प्लिकेटेड आहे, पण तुम्हाला हे कळायला पाहिजे की हे इंटरनल ऑर्गन्स आहेत, the internal organs are better controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So once again, what are the three divisions? CNS, PNS and ANS, autonomic nervous system. I think we take a pause here and then go ahead. We have one more part because we have learned most of the things about the brain, spinal cord, nerves, autonomic nervous system, and we want to learn about receptors, right? Because usually the neural system, neural coordination is side by side studied with the receptors, the eye, the ear, the tongue, etc. So it will be good if we are able to revise that. That is to be done, and a few things which are left here and there I can cover, but it will be better that we do it in the second half.